Question 281. Should classic books have elements removed/changed to fit modern sensibilities?
Oh, I hate when that shit happens and they can't read a book anymore in school because it's offensive.
No, it should not. No, that should not happen.
I'm trying to think of a situation where it would be good if it did. I'm having trouble here.
Where I got this question from suggested Huckleberry Finn, which I don't recall, so I don't know whether or not it's a book that would benefit from it.
No.
Oh yeah,
If we could do this with like in 50 years' time with anything published by Disney related to Star Wars, so that it doesn't exist anymore, that'd be fine.
No,
Badger.
Especially with Huckleberry Finn. If you kind of whitewash over it, then you stop learning the lessons that you did as a society. I mean,
agreed. But are there not other lessons that the book has?
Yeah, there are, but it's an important one when you have an opportunity to sit down with a child and go, you know what? Hey, this directly talks about racism. You know, let's talk about that. Then it's a teaching opportunity.
To Kill a Mockingbird was the one that was removed from my high school. I read it when I was at school, and then it was removed.
Really? Yeah, I was just thinking that too.
We read it. We watched the movie, the play.
I love the movie. For a black and white movie, I do not like black and white movies, but that really did take the book very well, and it helped me cheat that class. It was great.
Is calling it a black and white movie racist? Sorry.
Grey movie. Did you see the Grey movie?
Slap you dead.
Well, it's like taking what was her name, Mammy, out of Gone with the Wind. You know, it just wouldn't make sense. No, there are teaching moments in books and movies and shit. So,
books I read at school were Of Mice and Men and Holes. There were others, but those were the ones that we kind of looked into a lot.
But does that mean that we are going to lose some literature?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Well, because people are too uncomfortable reading it
because it's not relevant. I totally agree with everything you say about history and within that context. Okay, but there are things that, when time moves on, it is only a historical thing. It will hopefully only be a historical thing, if that makes sense. When it's one of those things where at school, when my daughter was at school and they used the word gay, it didn't mean anything. It only became meaningful when adults gave it meaning. So they would use it as an insult without any clue what it was meaning. No maliciousness behind it, no derogatory behind it. Right? So the point is,
still use it that way.
Yes, I'm not saying they don't, but I'm trying to make the point that if society moves forward to a point where we do not have these things, then the only value they have is about teaching about that this is behaviour in the past. What? Does that make sense? I mean, I'm hopeful for society. Maybe I'm too hopeful for society.
Okay, no, you have a very good point. That's kind of how we've moved along. That's why we have different points of views, cultures, and religions, because that happens. Things will be put aside and forgotten, or not so much forgotten, but not taken as serious as they are now. Time changes.
Why couldn't you have an adaptation of an older book that is relevant to new things, but where it's not just taking the old book and changing a few words? It's a new story, inspired by that.
Yeah, I like that idea.
You know, there is something to be said though about racist that are portrayed just for laughs. You know, one that gets me is my own heritage. You know, I'm Mexican, and I look at some of the old Speedy Gonzales cartoons, and I never thought twice about his sidekick Scopo Jones. And I thought, okay, you know, that's silly. But as an adult, I've heard a lot of people put on what they think is a Mexican accent, and they go straight to Slowpoke Jones, and like it's interesting that a lot of it kind of taught these negative racial stereotypes. It also makes me think of minstrel shows.
Mm.
You know, where's the place of the minstrel show in the way that we look at history? Well, it's not something that I would want children to see without talking to them as a parent, you know, or someone to go, you know what, this is a portrayal that you don't want to take with you because it looked funny.
Do you have over there? We have a problem at the moment. Okay, we got all sorts of problems, but this is an interesting one because it's dying out. Okay, we have these things called Morris dancers.
Oh God, why are you bringing them up? What has that got to do with anything?
Right, because Morris dancers, right? They are very old traditional dancers that do very weird things. Anyway, the point is, what they do what we would now call as black up.
Oh, blackface,
right? But the point is,
dancers do that.
Have you never seen? It's not all done. It's again, it's a traditional thing in certain things. Okay, but the problem is, this predates anything. This is hundreds of years old. This has got absolutely nothing to do with race. But they are criticised.
That's when your face is inherently racist.
This is the point, right? But they are criticised because it used to be very common, but lots of groups stopped doing it because of racial insensitivities, and there's very few that are doing it now. And it's this thing that is, they're trying to keep it going because it is tradition, and other people are saying they should just give it up.
So the argument that as tradition means fuck all to me, because over here in the United States there are a lot of people who fly Confederate flags.
Yes, I completely agree.
You know, and the whole argument, it's tradition, has become a veiled way for a lot of people who want to dog whistle their racism, to say, well, it's heritage, not hate.
Yeah.
And you know, when it starts getting into that, then we need to start coming up with better arguments, because
yes, I agree.
Does not fly, because if we wanted to be traditional, we'd go back to slave ownership here in the United States and take the vote away from people other than
but there has to be a line there, though.
Land-owning people. So, well, I mean, what about beating your kids? That's traditional.
No, I agree, and I have a problem. Again, you want to go down that route? I have a problem with the way we have ended up where we've ended up with that, because the debate was never had.
So I think I don't know. I think tradition is just a poor argument.
But then, what would you not class as tradition? And you could dismiss anything then that's you could dismiss any
that people have done in the past and still do. Yes,
sure.
But how long ago is my point being that
sure. So I think any excuse that you have to gather together the people that you love, to tell them that you love them, to have a feast, and to drink and give each other gifts and things like that, those are wonderful, and any excuse we have for them, I'll take.
Right, but taking for your example, what if that is done around a Confederate flag, and that is part of that family's tradition?
Well, no, okay. So here's how I look at it. I live in the South too, Eric, and I'm not from here. You know that I'm from New England, and we have, especially in Atlanta, there is in fact, probably the majority of Atlanta is minority, as opposed to the suburbs, which tend to be more, you know, redneck, white, whatever. And I feel like if you have something that is clearly hurtful and offensive to an entire group of people, then that should really be questioned. You know, I'm not saying no freedom of speech or whatever, but it's not like they're flying the flag because they fondly remember the Civil War and they want to.
Unfortunately, I think the flag is a terrible thing to use as an example, because it's so rewritten history in the context of it, of how it's moved along. I mean, from an external point of view, if you actually look at, I don't know what it's like to live in it, but from an external point of view, it's fantastic. We've gone through. I'm 41, and I've lived through.
You're not 41.
I am. I've lived through it not
2 million years old, though.
I've lived through the Confederate flag becoming something that was not nostalgic, but just something that was, and it was kind of a novelty. And in the last 30 years, it has got more and more relevant to people that had no concept of it.
Well, so yeah, if you want another story on that one, I'd be happy. But I think a more relevant piece would be let's talk about Christmas. I celebrate Christmas. I don't know how many of you do, but I okay. So do you celebrate the nativity?
Nope.
No? Okay, so keep the part that you like and get rid of the part that sucks.
Yes.
If you traditionally gather around the Confederate flag or whatever other, keep the part where you gather around. You don't have to keep the shitty part.
Yeah, but the point is do you have the right to tell other people to do that? If we go, okay, let's try. I'm going to scratch that. Let's try and go back to the question a little bit, right?
I
do you have a right to tell other people to change their books to get rid of those bits?
I've got one little thing I want to add on the Morris dancing
go on.
thing, if I can. If you want to just move on from it, that's fine.
No, go on. Go briefly.
Which is, I do think it is a bit arrogant of someone from, not someone, but like a group or culture from somewhere else who is offended by something to come into someone else's culture and go, you can't do that anymore.
Yes.
Especially if that thing is completely unconnected to the history of why it's offensive to this other group.
Agreed.
That being said, I think there is an element of just people, if people are going to mix and get on with each other, they do need to kind of consider, well, this person is upset by this. We need to think about how we can deal with that. And I think there needs to be some give and take in both directions in that regard.
Yes, I completely agree.
And yeah, I don't want to. I forgot where that sentence was going, so I'll just leave it.
I mean, the problem I've got is I have watching the last 10 years and watching what were relatively innocent, and you're going to end up using the word dog whistle, but relatively innocuous words, symbols, to rally around and give them meaning. And then that meaning is jumped upon. But
language.
Say again.
That's just the function of language, though.
It is, but it seems that how it has been done seems more dishonest. And I don't know if that's true, because I don't think it's like you're. I don't think. Okay, let's, for example, I will take. It's the reverse engineering in the brain. Okay, if you take the Brexit vote. When I spoke to Brexit voters before the referendum, not one of them, or very few of them, I know, thought that we would leave the single market. They thought the single market was separate from the EU, and so leaving the EU would not leave me leaving the single market.
They're bringing up these things that we're on opposite sides.
I know, it's great, isn't it? Right now, the point being, after the referendum and after it was said we were going to leave the single market, I spoke to various different people again, and they were all convinced that they were voting to leave the single market. So the term Brexit became to incorporate leaving the single market. Now that's not what they voted for. They voted for lots of various different reasons, but that wasn't one of them. And it's maybe it's the issue is the mass media that has allowed this massive change of ideas, change of meaning of words over time, very quickly. I'm gabbling. Yes.
This is a fun show. We have a weird combination of sort of just, would you feel sad for killing zombie type questions?
I know, and then serious. Well, that's the point. Right, okay. I'm going to apologise and go back to the question, because I fairly certain we agree. Should classic books have elements removed, changed to fit modern sensibilities?
No.
No, and I think the answer is universally no.
Yeah.
Even if it means we lose some literature, ultimately.
do you really lose it? I mean,
You do from the common. If you take the top 1,000 books that are read by most people growing up, it falls out of that list. That's the point. It's not that it goes away; it's still there. It's just that it doesn't get read anymore. We lose it in that sense.
well, but then you just get to learn more about history. I mean, I wouldn't want someone to update Shakespeare. I would want to read Shakespeare the way it was written, by the Bard. I wouldn't want to have,
Yes, but you can't. It's been updated. You can't read it the way it was written by the Bard. The Bard only wrote it in individual pieces for individual actors. It was put together by other people.
Also, the language now is completely different to the language then.
Yes.
But I think you know what he meant, though.
Yeah.
No, I think you interpret what they meant based upon. I'm going to say you know what they meant. The Bible.
I think you know what Eric meant when he said that, though.
Yes, I do. I understand. But what he wants is he wants to read the words as they were understood as he grew up.
No.
As I grew up, no. I needed to learn about the time to understand the context. And
Fair enough.
that was my first kind of foray into hermeneutics, and that kind of spurred on my want to learn about those kinds of so.
Okay, before I move on, I have to read Tony's comment, mostly because he is an American. Okay, so top 1,000 books. You can tell he's not an American.
Can you read Trainbeck's comment as well?
Couldn't read growing up? Or is there another one?
I don't think it's necessarily bad that things go out of the top 1,000 or 100 or whatever books that people read growing up, because the books are still there. You can still go and read them if you have an interest in that period.
Yes.
But if the things that happened in that period are not as relevant to the things happening now, it's not necessary to read them with such historical importance.
Yes.
You can just. I want to learn about this period. I'm going to read some literature from this period and see what it was like.
I mean, I find it very interesting now to read things, and I find it annoying that the idea that you can just pull out a phone. The number of stories that you follow a story, and the point is about who knows what when.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of time it takes information to travel between places, especially the older that you get with books. And now every story has to have the ability to pull out a phone and to phone them. And it annoys me, like with the new Doctor Who, where they find something out, they found something profound, and it shows repeatedly these people have got phones and they don't phone each other.
Yeah.
See, that in stories featuring me, that works fine because I don't pick up the phone.
You would if there was something that profound.
How would I know if I didn't pick it up to hear it?
I bet you'd tell someone.
Some unknown human is phoning me. I ain't picking that thing up.
That's true, though.
I like that.
Nobody answers your phone anymore, especially if you don't know it.
I like that she says we trolled her stream. She started it.
Who is Lucy?
Lucy Luxor. She's internet famous.
Well, I would tell you, but the button to go to the person's channel doesn't exist anymore.
No.
We've had this discussion.
Lucy's good fun, don't worry.
She is. If you enjoyed that, please hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down. If you think you've got a better answer or just want to tell us how wrong we are, leave a comment down below. Subscribe down here for new questions every day, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on our live shows. If you click over here, you'll see our latest upload. Over here, for what YouTube thinks you'll love the most. And finally, for a complete playlist of all our currently released questions, click here.